In this video, I'm going to show you how to cut beadboard with a circular saw. Now the first thing we need to do is set our circular saw up correctly. So we're going to remove the battery or unplug the circular saw to isolate it from its power supply, and then we're free to mess around with the blade and do what we want without risk of cutting ourselves. So moving on to the blade, we've got a nice Freud crosscut blade here. These are the only blades I use because they do a really nice clean cut, and because they're a cross-cutting blade, they can cut the beadboard in any particular direction. I'd always recommend a cross-cut blade because they leave a lot neater of a cut than a ripping blade. So although a circular saw does actually cause the tear out on the face side, and really you should cut your beadboard from the back, they're that neat if you get a decent blade with a large number of teeth on that you can actually cut it on the face side and it'll still leave a nice neat edge. So always bear that in mind. If you want a super neat edge, turn your beadboard over and cut from the back. But as long as you use a good blade, and we'll put a link to a good one in the description, you'll be fine cutting on the face side. So before we can cut our beadboard, we need to mark a square line. If you've a lot of beadboard to do, I'd really recommend buying one of these sight squares. They're really cheap to pick up and it'll just improve the quality of your work by no end. So we're going to place that on there. We're just going to draw a line like so. We're going to set the depth on our circular saw now and take the battery out. There's a little lever at the back here. We're just going to undo that. That frees up the base so it moves around. And then what we're going to do is set our circular saw to the depth of our beadboard. If you get down at eye level, you'll be able to see how far the blade's cutting through the beadboard. And we just want to make sure that the blade is only just cutting through our material. So we're going to have the blade there and then lock our saw off. And we just lock that lever at the back. And then we can put our battery in. There are no speed settings on a circular saw. It's just on and off on the trigger. So this just has a safety and then the trigger. So you don't need to worry about altering the settings. We can leave our circular saw for now and get back to cutting our beadboard. So we've marked our line with our square. I've marked on here with this pen line exactly where the blade's going to run. That pen line is actually the thickness of the blade. So we want to keep our workpiece just over the edge of our workbench. Biggest tip I can give you is when you go into your workpiece, make sure the circular saw blade is spinning. What a lot of people tend to do is they get the circular saw there, they're concentrating on their line, and they start the circular saw while it's in contact with the beadboard. The board flicks off, it all goes up in the air, and they never want to use a circular saw again. So start the saw running, then move into your workpiece. Once you've cut completely through, stop the circular saw blade or let the circular saw blade slow down, take your finger off the trigger, and then as soon as the blade stopped, remove your saw from the workpiece. That's the safest way to do it. So I'll show you that in action now. We're cutting to the waist side of our line. So our circular saw is going to run, the blade is going to run in this bit. If we cut to the other side of our line, we're going to risk cutting our piece of beadboard 2 millimeters too short. As soon as the blade stopped, take it out the workpiece. And that is the safest way to use a circular saw. I hope you found something useful in this video. If you have, drop us a like. If you have some other tips to cut beadboard with a circular saw, let us know in the comments. And if you want to stay updated with more quick and simple DIY tips, then feel free to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.